I mean, I guess the only thing we can do is just hop right into it, right, homie? And then we talk about it as we go. Let's send it. Warning, this video contains a few spoilers for Hollow Knight. Please bear that in mind before embarking on the journey.
If you were to ask me, what is your favorite video game ever made? I would have to say Cory in the House for the Nintendo DS.
True.
But Hollow Knight would be a close second.
True.
Hollow Knight was released on February 24th, 2017 by Team Cherry, an indie game
Descend
studio
into
based
the
in
vast.
mythical land of Adelaide, South Australia.
Wait, they're in Australia?
Over the past 3 years, Hollow Knight has become an indie darling.
Really?
The game has sold over 3.5 million copies. It was the opening game at ADGQ 2019.
What?
There's a Hollow Knight book, a line of
There's a
plushies,
book?
T-shirts, nicotine patches, nuclear warheads, and even vinyl records for all you
Wow,
goddamn
wow.
hipsters. Team Cherry had one goal when making Hollow Knight.
Forge
They
your
wanted to create
own
a world
path.
that allowed players to get completely lost in exploration. We can see
It
this
worked.
desire in Hollow Knight's design. The levels in Hollow Knight are massive, with secrets and rewards hidden in every nook and cranny.
I mean,
Be
there's
that
a
powerful
ton of
charms,
content.
special abilities, or the game's navigation system requires the player to work for their map, forcing them to make a stronger mental image. of the
Now,
world
guys,
in their
remind me after this. I'm definitely wanting to look to see if we can't get us a new display, Hollow Knight display to put right here, right next to my Monster Hunter one. Okay, we'll check that afterwards. Kitty cat, what's up, homie? All right, let's get back into the vid.
head. Christopher Larkin's score and Ari Gibson's artwork lend to this as well, creating an atmosphere that the player won't want to leave.
Well,
There's one
we meet
aspect of Hollow
again.
Knight that keeps people like me coming back: the world building.
This is what's up. When you get
When
me
Super Metroid
Hollow
launched
Knight
in 1994, it stood out for its amazing sense of immersion.
in a
Now in
PS4,
1994,
PS3,
I was
true.
busy not being
true
alive,
and true.
but I've watched enough YouTube video essays to know that this game was a big deal. In case you didn't know,
Yeah, I
Super
wasn't
Metroid
alive
is
either, dude.
basically the granddaddy of all Metroidvanias. That's why they're called Metroidvanias. Now in Super Metroid, there are moments that give the player a sense of depth.
PS3,
Basically,
PS4,
the feeling
true.
that this world exists outside of Samus's interactions with it.
Oh, we'll
In
play
the room right
Minecraft
before
someday.
that
Don't even
diabetic
sweat that,
crocodile
homie.
thing, Samus can find the corpse of a random soldier. His inclusion here doesn't change the gameplay at all, but instead gives the player a sense of wonder about the world they are exploring.
True.
Who was this guy? Why was he here in the first place?
And there's a lot of that
Did
in
he
Hollow
like
Knight.
jazz? Now, finding dead bodies and other random garbage is pretty cool, right?
True.
Well, Hollow Knight basically does the same thing. About a
Oh wait,
dozen
I forgot
times.
about that.
Through its world building, Hollow Knight turns Hallownest into a living kingdom. You can sense the ancient history of the land when you look at dilapidated structures or giant bards.
Guys, I'm going to keep pausing throughout the video, but that's something I've noticed a lot of when we play the game. Like, as you interact with the world, there's a lot of stuff that, like, whether it be the players died, like Coral and then our big boy when we fought the Mantis, and he got stuck by the Mantis's blade and stuff like that. Spoiler alert. There's a lot of that really cool stuff for world building and getting you into the actual world of Hollow Knight. Super cool. Also play Terraria. I can't play Terraria, bro. Can't do it.
Doors.
Terraria, I
Nothing feels
can't
like
do it,
was
bro.
Put into the game randomly.
I get bored.
There's a reason for it all.
Unless
Except
Terraria is
those
just a
reasons
bop that I
aren't the
never played.
easiest to
Actually, I've only
uncover.
played like
Hollow Knight's
30 minutes of
narrative
it, to be
is
honest
buried
with
under
you.
layers of NPC dialogue, item descriptions, lore tablets, and even additional content
True.
like the Quarrel comic and Fan Gamer's Wanderer's Journal.
Whoa, that's
These
cool.
past 3 years have seen an insane amount of research by the Hollow Knight community to make sense of Team Cherry's sprawling world. We've even made it
Yo,
to
wait,
the point
time
where
out. What was
people-
that? Time out. We want to talk about this?
These past 3 years
Okay,
have
where
seen
is
an
it?
insane amount of research by the Hollow Knight community.
Wait,
to
where
make
is it?
sense of
Nice. Why? AFK? Nice, bro.
Team Cherry's
All right, just
sprawling
want to make sure we
world.
all saw that.
We've even made it to the point where people are looking at the in-game signs to try and decipher Hallownest's logographic language. In this video, I hope to give you a long and detailed look into the world of Hollow Knight,
Wait,
exploring
what?
Hallownest's history and uncertain future. When I'm not busy making surprisingly accurate Super Smash Bros. Roster speculation videos, or insightful podcasts about beloved subjects like the Donkey Kong Country television series,
True.
or whatever this was supposed to be, I'm usually making videos about
He actually
Hollow Knight.
disliked all of his
While I am a
videos.
seasoned Hollow Knight lore expert, I cannot confirm that every musing or theory presented in this video
37
is completely
pages?
correct.
This
I
is
highly
volume
recommend
1.
checking out the lore section of the Hollow Knight wiki if you want a more neutral explanation of Hollow
I
Knight's
thought it was a wiki.
lore.
I didn't know it was a
But
wiki.
if you're too lazy to read, then I suggest you sit back, order some Domino's pizza, or just grab a block of cheese from the fridge
Real
and enjoy the mostly
sus?
complete lore
Yeah, real
of
sus,
Hollow
brother.
Knight. It's a
Where are
simple
we
fact
starting?
of life that every human worships a god.
Oh,
Be
look,
that
that's the...
technology, ideologies.
That's the
or in
resonance,
rare
right?
cases, God. As it turns out, the bugs in Halnest pretty much operate in the same way. From the Mosskin born from the dream of a giant slug, to the emo kids of the ancient civilization who literally
Really?
worship the darkness.
No cost too
There is no
great?
shortage of things
Pale
to
King.
worship in the world of Hollow Knight. Our story
That's-
begins with
that's-
a creature
that's
very
rough,
much
bro.
worthy of worship.
That's
a
deep.
creature born from the carcass of a worm. The carcass can still be found in the Kingdom's Edge.
Oh, that's
and
what
it's our
that
only
was?
good look at what worms actually looked like. At the time Hollow Knight occurs, it is suggested there are no worms left in the world. They were incredibly long creatures that featured little to no limbs. Another more mysterious property of worms was that they had some kind of prescience or foresight. Basically, they could see the future to some capacity.
Oh,
It
okay.
isn't clear
That
how
makes
effective
sense.
this
Yeah.
ability was. Considering how the entire race
The
went
Colosseum.
extinct,
Nice.
this foresight ability must have been pretty shit. Getting back to this particular worm
Unless
carcass,
the
it is
foresight
explained that
was
this
they
worm
needed
traveled
to
across the distant
die
mountains
to
and wastelands
keep going
beyond
on.
Hallownest.
Just
Once
saying.
it arrived in Hallownest, the worm died.
What?
Except not really. Inside the maw of the carcass sits a pale broken egg, out of which hatched a new form of worm, a being of meager shell. This form of the worm is usually
is that
referred
him?
to as the Pale King.
Well, that's the
And he's the
homie.
character basically responsible for everything that happens in Hollow Knight. The Pale King is a higher being, a type of creature that exists above all others.
Look at him all.
His body was said to shine with a radiant
We gave him
vistage
300
that
we gave him
harmed those who
3,000
looked
geo.
upon him. The ultimate goal of the Pale King seemed to be in line with that of
Is this
other
too loud or is
worms.
this good?
A line from the cryptic Mr. Mushroom reads, "Worms pull bugs into their thrall, till ages pass and kingdoms fall." In other words, it's just in their nature. Dogs wag their tails,
Yeah.
cats bury their shit, and worms bring massive amounts
True.
of bugs into their service in order to form long-standing kingdoms and civilizations.
They're giga
And
worms.
here in a far corner of the world, the Pale King emerged from the corpse
Dead
of his former
cells
self
for
and
the
began to
queen.
build his eternal kingdom, Hallownest. There's just one slight problem.
I
There's,
saw that.
like,
That'd be sick.
People already living there. The area that would eventually become Hallownest.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Wait, this fan map is actually sick, guys. This is sick. Wow. That's incredible. There's the Blue Lake. Wait, so the Blue Lake actually rains down on the City of Tears? Is that right? Is that what that is? Or is that irrelevant and that's something completely different? How does the City of Tears even rain? Unless it is from the Blue Lake. Can we confirm or deny? Yes, that is it. It does make sense. That does make sense. Whoa, and then there's Crystal Peaks. Yo, wait. Wow. Wow, that's crazy. Okay, we're gonna keep going.
Was already filled with mantises, bees, moths, spiders, mushrooms, and bush cosplayers. Each of these groups were already operating with their own cultures and societies, and each group had a different interaction with the Pale
Not fan map. If you buy the PS4 or other copy, there's a map by Team Cherry you get. Oh, that's actually sick.
King. One of the more receptive groups to the arrival of the Pale King were the mushrooms of the Fungal Wastes.
I love these guys.
These creatures were able to communicate with one another through one shared mind. The mushrooms viewed this shared mind as a strength, and they were kind of smug dickheads about it.
True.
Ultimately, the mushrooms wearily accepted the Pale King's rule, viewing his foresight as a shield to the dangers of the future.
Yo, can
Another
we...
group living in the Fungal
Whoa.
Wastes is the Mantis tribe.
Don't forget, guys, we're doing a tier list after this.
The Mantises have a rich cultural history reaching back to long before the birth of Hallownest. The Mantises are a proud tribe.
Yeah, these guys are
believing
like
in the importance of
assassins.
proving one's
They're like
physical strength. The
assassins.
Mantises are
looking
fiercely
dude.
territorial, but will show respect to those who display great power.
Hey!
These Fight Club enthusiasts were
That's
led by
us.
4 powerful Mantis Lords, who I guess just kind of sat around waiting for outsiders to challenge them. The Mantis tribe had no interest in the Pale King's kingdom, but the two
these guys go hard.
Truce.
Can we agree?
In
Mantises
exchange
go
for their
hard.
Independence from Hallownest, the Mantis tribe kept the beasts of Deepnest from invading Hallownest. Not sure why they didn't just go out the other exits from Deepnest, but whatever.
True, they didn't have them unlocked yet.
Patrol. I don't work at ICE anymore. Let's move on to Deepnest. Now, many of the different tribes of Hallownest were kind enough to leave lore tablets behind.
The shapes and beats? I don't know what that is, bro.
To know about them. Unfortunately, the bugs of Deepnest didn't do that. We know that the spiders of Deepnest had a monarchy because why not?
Is it the spider's web?
Good, right? Also, within Deepnest are a separate group of spiders that immigrated to Deepnest at some
like a
point
whole
in the past.
template of
This group
like
was
a
known as
library.
the Weavers, and they established their own
Full
culture
game
and
bullet hell?
history within Deepnest.
Well, that's sick.
They used looms of silk to weave stories, spells, and shields.
What did I say?
One thing we know for sure about Deepnest is that they really didn't want anything to do with Hallownest.
That's so
The
cool.
struggles of Deepnest-Hallownest relations would become painfully clear as time goes on, but for right now, it seems like the two remained fairly isolated from one another. Another section of pre-Hallownest includes Greenpath. Now, as far as we can
Greenpath
tell,
is cool.
the mushrooms, mantises, and spiders of Deepnest didn't worship any higher beings. There is this giant mushroom corpse in the fungal core, but I don't
That's
think
a big
this
boy.
is a higher being.
Yeah,
I mean, who the hell would want to worship a
That's just
fat-ass
that-
mushroom?
that's just a big
Fat-ass
boy.
slugs? Now that's dope.
Yeah, that's the
Was
homie.
created by the higher being known as Un. Un used her great mind to dream the vegetation of Greenpath into the once barren caverns. Un's followers, the Mosskin, were
Un?
also born out of Un's dream. Making
forget
her
who-
their
wait,
creator.
Who's on?
Greenpath at its height was actually much
Is
larger
that
than we see
the
in
big
game.
slug?
At one point, Greenpath stretched into both modern-day Queen's Garden and possibly Fog Canyon. Greenpath's citizens showed themselves to be a fairly developed society. They built a temple at the Lake of Un in order
That one's
to
cool.
worship her.
The slug?
And they even
Yeah,
had their
Dream
own
Trapper,
line of
big.
defense,
That's
with
sick.
Moss Knights showing proficiency in combat, using nails and shells as weapons.
Moss Knights are cool.
The Law of Un continued to remain in effect even after the Pale King arrived, but it seems like they allowed the king to establish a road through their lands, leading travelers to the heart of Hallownest. Hence
Nice.
the name Greenpath. Yeah, Team Cherry really racked their brains when naming this area, didn't they?
That's what I'm talking about,
Next,
baby.
we have the
Keep it
bees.
simple.
And while there is no lore on how these bees can turn into fucking drills, or how they can ignore all known laws of aviation, we do know how they reacted to the
These
Pale
bees are
King.
crazy.
These bugs decided to steal their hive off from the rest of the world,
Oh,
with
my
only
modded
patrol bees being able to
Soul
enter
Tyrant
and
mod
exit the
Dream
hive.
Trapper. That'd
So
be
yeah,
sick.
the bees are pretty much pointless in this story. And finally, we have the Moth tribe. In-game, the only moth settlement is in the Resting Grounds. But the
Really?
tribe have also inhabited the Crystal Peak at one point. Now, as we all know, moths in real life are just complete assholes. As
Ish.
for the moths in Hollow Knight,
Also,
well, it's a bit complicated. The
Wait,
moth
what?
race is described as being a rather pacifist group, with few ever choosing to take up a weapon. During the Pale King's
But there's-
reign,
there's a few
the
of them
moth
that
race
do.
delved amongst dreams and the dead, displaying the importance of
Light of
remembering
Moth?
those who have passed, as well as learning how to shape dreams themselves. Similar to the Mothkin, the Moth tribe was born from a higher being known as the Radiance.
really?
The Radiance is described as being a light in which the Moth tribe basked, so she was basically a giant lamp to them. Another important aspect about the Radiance
Wait,
is
that's
their
actually
ties to
sick.
dreams and a substance known as essence. Essence are the remains of wishes and dreams, and are represented in-game by these dream-catcher particle effects. Essence can take the form of whispering roots,
Welcome back, homie.
as well as dream ghosts, both of which are memories taking root in the world. The Radiance appears to be a creature made of essence, but she isn't the only higher being to give off essence.
How many
Un
are
has
there?
Green particles, the Pale King has gray particles, and this sexy character named Grimm gives off fire and
Hey.
red particles. However, the Radiance appears to be the main god when it comes to dreams, even if other gods also dabble in the dream realm. Getting back to the Moth tribe.
Wait. So there's actually different. So wait, there's actually different beings that hold different lights for dreams. So there's different characters can actually enter the dream realm differently. Is that what he's getting at?
Tribe. It is their interaction with the Pale King that we need to discuss. Basically, the Moths turned their backs on the Radiance completely in order to worship the new light that had appeared, the Pale King's light.
Oh,
Moths are assholes in this game too. With her tribe forsaking her,
Rip.
the Radiance became a forgotten memory,
Rip.
a remnant of the past.
Grimm is a higher being when you dream nail him on Godhome. While he is bowing on, he will say something. Oh, really? They can make their own variation?
And a thing that's definitely not going to come up again later in this video. And so the Pale King's new kingdom.
Look at that map. That map is sick. Yeah, I think the hive place is just a little thrown in. You know what I mean? It just seems like it's a little thrown in compared to a lot of the other stuff, but that's okay. That's okay.
Was established. Hallownest. But there is one aspect of Hallownest that we need to discuss. Unfortunately, to better understand this, we're going to have to read some poetry. In wilds beyond they speak your name with reverence and regret. For none could tame our savage souls, yet you the challenge met. Under palest watch you taught, we changed. Base instincts were redeemed. A world you gave to bug and beast as they had never dreamed. This is from a poem titled Elegy for
Our
Hallownest,
Grand Stage?
written by Modemon the Teacher.
Really?
The poem appears at the beginning of every playthrough, and hints at what the Pale King and his kingdom offered. Much of the land outside of Hallownest.
Without the hive, no hive blood for Palace, though? True. The bees were important. They helped us get through Palace, so bless up. Thank you, bees.
Appears to be a wasteland, where bugs survive off of instinct, without the burden of mind. Hallownest somehow taught these bugs and tamed their savagery. Basically, the Pale King changed the instincts of his subjects and granted them higher thought. To get a better picture
That's
of this,
crazy.
Let's look at two different characters, Boone and Tuck. These adorable panda bug things give us a clear display of Hallownest's effect.
I forgot about him.
While both appear to be the same species of bug, Boone is dumb as a sack of rocks, struggling to string together words, while Tuck speaks fairly clearly. The main difference between these two characters is that while Boone lives outside of Hallownest, Tuck lives beneath the city's capital. Basically, it appears as though Hallownest is a literal holy ground that raises the intelligence of those who dwell within.
That's wild. Dreamnail, the Radiance, she will say something.
The Pale King established a path.
I'll probably look it up.
Look
up what the Dreamness is.
Winding through Greenpath and the Fungal wastes, and finally ending at the massive capital at Hallownest's heart. We now know the capital city as the City of Tears, but that was likely not its original name. The rain that falls down onto the city from the blue lake above didn't begin until after the kingdom collapsed.
Who said that?
So unless the capital was originally named by some edgy literature student, the name City of Tears wouldn't have made much sense.
True.
The
That makes
king's
sense.
motivation for all this appears to have been his desire to be worshipped. The citizens of Hallownest believe that the Pale King created the world and everything in it. Shrines to the king can be found scattered throughout the kingdom.
Really?
And
Oh, I
king's
didn't even
items were
notice
created
that.
And distributed to followers of the king.
We
Despite
gave him the
worship,
king
Pale
items.
King often kept himself hidden from his
I do not
subjects,
fear you. I am
possibly
always
to hide his
mistaken.
blemishes. I mean, if you look at the size of the real Pale King to his statue in the ancient basin, the man is clearly overcompensating.
True.
The Pale King's White Palace was also built underneath the city, separating him from his subjects even more so.
Wait, so basically, the Pale King has a who's the little French dude in like the 17 or 1800s or whatever? I think it was 1700s. Who's that? Napoleon. He's got the Napoleon complex. It's okay, we'll let him do his thing. I'm not mad at it.
At the same time, certain powers became shunned
Short
in
gang.
Hallownest.
Short
Though
kings.
we don't know for sure if the Pale King had anything to do with this. Lifeblood is a blue liquidy substance that leaves those
That
who
stuff's
drink
cool.
it feeling refreshed. However, the use of lifeblood was seen as a taboo, and those who used it were demonized as heretics.
What?
The use of soul for combat
Hey,
was
hey,
also
play Hollow Knight
shunned.
public beta
Soul
version?
is a sort of life force in Hollow
Bruh.
Knight that animates the bodies of living creatures. But some characters are able to control the soul of others to conjure powerful spirits. But aside from a few exceptions, no citizens of Hallownest ever used this power.
Really?
However, the Pale King didn't rule alone. There was another higher being in the mix.
That's our mom,
A
right?
being known as the
That's
White
our mom.
Lady. The White Lady is a weird brute-like being that can be found in the modern-day Queen's Gardens.
Bruce mother?
She is encased in a strange cocoon, and we know very little about her. With as much exposition we get for the Pale King, there is next to nothing on the White Lady. But one thing we do know is that she likes to breed. Like,
Yeah,
a lot.
she's a
The
pumper.
White Lady would often retreat to the Queen's Gardens, an area of land once controlled by the Moss Kid.
Well, she's not a pumper.
How
She gets
exactly
pumped.
she walked around and actually went places is a lore question too deep for even my expertise. The White Lady is also known as a pale being, along with the Pale King. What exactly are pale beings? Well, we don't know for sure,
Are they?
but they seem to stand out even amongst higher beings as being even more powerful.
What?
I know that's a little
How
confusing.
did he die then?
So let's try using an example.
How did the Pale King die?
I'd say that regular higher beings are like a TP-Link Archer C7 AC1750 wireless dual-band gigabit router.
Nice.
While pale beings are like the Asus RT-AX88U
Nice.
dual-band 8X
Nice.
gigabit
Juicer
Wi-Fi
router. Juicer
Under
router.
Pale King, Halnest underwent a bit of an industrial revolution. He ordered the construction of the stagways, which were
is
used
super
to
cool.
transport passengers and goods. The Forgotten Crossroads and the storerooms above the City of
Well,
Tears
that's cool.
were used to store goods that traveled along these stagways. The king also ordered the construction of the
There's
tramways, because literally no one is safe from the threat of automation. A tram was built between the Forgotten Crossroads and the resting grounds. A second tram was built from the kingdom's edge across the ancient basin over to Deepnest. And then a third tram was started in Deepnest and attempted to go further into Deepnest. Not sure how useful that would have been to the bugs of Halonest, but whatever. The Pale King's a smart guy. I'm not gonna question him. But anyway, the Pale
Shown
King's
here
super
being
smart
dead.
plan to build
Yes.
a tram in Deepnest ended up getting a few of his tram workers killed. The bugs of Deepnest rejected the
five-head
Pale
plan
King's
was.
attempt to build a tram in their territory, further cementing the poor relations shared between the two groups. Aside from
Oh, so they were
convenient fast
scrapping.
travel, regular pathways were also used to cart goods around the kingdom. From this was born probably one of the most important groups in Halonest, and perhaps even all of fiction. An elusive guild of bugs, simply known as the Menderbugs. took to maintaining
Hey!
various signs scattered
They're the
throughout
homies.
Halonest.
Look at the
From the
homies.
journal
Tweak.
entry of
What's up,
one
homie?
Menderbug,
Look at
we
that.
can catch a glimpse into their ancient and unknowable minds.
Dear, dear diary.
It's the
Isn't
worker
life the most
bugs.
Beautiful thing.
I love
Fixing
it.
Signs, mending posts, let them break, I say. I'm a better mender for all that repairing. I sometimes
What a
doubt there's
guy.
a single bug in all of Halonest happier than me.
Another example of the Pale King's
Bizarre.
expanding infrastructure
What's up,
is
homie?
the Crystal Peak. This area is filled with crystals that grow rapidly along walls, ceilings, and even the
they have
shells
a
of
whole-
certain bugs. These
Looking
crystals were
pumped-
considered
looking pumped
valuable
today,
to the bugs
bro.
of Halonest,
Hey,
resulting in
we gotta go to
large-scale
one end.
mining efforts. We don't actually see the
I
crystals
love the little
used
mining
anywhere
bugs.
else in Halonest, but they are said to contain a sort of energy. The crystals are also said to
Guys, I wonder if they're gonna end up implementing the crystals into the new game. That'd be cool. Because if they're not used anywhere but the Crystal Way or whatever like that, that'd be sick.
sing if you listen very carefully.
Oh yeah, guys, make sure you like the stream. Make sure you like the stream. Get more people up in here.
In terms of military, Halonest's first line of defense appeared to be a group.
If you dream nail Grimm on the battle, not Godmaster mode, he has 3 dialogues: the flame, the ritual, the triumph. You know, if you kill Menderbug in the palace, you found Sly, another door opened, that Menderbug's house will be so. Yes, actually, yes. I either watched a video or somebody told me to go in there. It may have been you actually. AFK sounds good, brother. It may have been you actually who told me to go in there, but I went in there. It was pretty cool.
Simply known
It's pretty
as
cool.
the
It
Five
feels bad
Great
actually.
Knights. The members of this esteemed coalition were Ogrim, Hagamol, Zamir, Drya, and Isma.
Oh, I didn't
For
know
being so
Isma was over
important,
there.
Most of the information about these knights has been lost to time.
Rip.
Ogrim is the knight we know the most about, since he is one of the few knights still alive during the events of the game.
He's,
Ogrim
I think, one of the
expressed a great
only
amount
ones,
of
right?
loyalty towards the king.
He's a
and he
homie.
maybe had something going
No,
on
I didn't
with
tell you.
Isma,
Somebody told me
but
then.
we really don't know. Hagamol was known for his sense of humor and his soft-spoken voice, but at the same time,
He's a big boy.
he was also dummy thick.
True.
Mysterious Amir arrived in Halnest
Big,
from a
big,
serene
thick boy.
land, bringing with her a collection of delicate flowers. At some point, she also got into a relationship with a mantis, but not just any mantis, a daughter of one of the mantis lords.
What?
So yeah, it seems like these great knights were slaying in more ways than one. All
True.
we really know about Drya is that she was fierce, caring, and wise. As for Isma, she was described as being kind. She also appears to be some sort of weird plant life form,
I
but
don't
there's
know
no
if she
information on where
was
she's
or if
from
she just
or what her
she
powers
just got
were.
like stuck in the
Five
side of
Great
a
Knights played an
wall.
important role in the Champion's Call, the Knotted
You know, it could have been
Grove,
one or the
and
other.
the Battle of the Blackworm.
What
We
the
have
heck's
no
the
idea
battle?
what these
What are
events
those?
were or how they affected Hallownest, but they sound cool nonetheless.
True.
During Hallownest's reign,
Oh, look,
there
is that
was
another worm?
strange area that seemed to exist separate from the Pale King's
Looks like
rule.
another worm.
Carved
I'm back
out of
from
the
Din
corpse
Din?
of an ancient
Nice.
bug, an area called the Colosseum of Fools was constructed, and it was a destination for warriors from outside Hallownest. The sole purpose for fighting in the Colosseum
Yep, we
appeared to
beat
be
that.
simply for glory.
Hope
with
you
a
ate good
mysterious
at
figure
Din Din.
known as the Lord Fool overseeing the combat. We don't know when the Colosseum was constructed.
I love
or
this
if
guy
Pale
hanging
King was
upside down.
involved, but one of his servants, the Pale Lurker, became a champion
Yo,
in the
why does this pale lurker? Why does this pale lurker look like the guy, the my precious dude from Lord of the Rings?
Colosseum, perhaps indicating the Pale King's approval. And finally, there was the Royal Waterways, where the fecal
Gollum.
excrement of the king
That guy looks
was
like Gollum.
washed out into the fungal wastes. This area saw the rise of a species of parasite-like creatures called the flukes.
Those things are gross,
the
bro.
flukes spawned from the fluke marm, a giant monster with cavities in which tinier flukes live.
That's that
There really
8-second
isn't
boss
too much
fight.
lore involved with the flukes, but I do need to point out that the fluke marm is canonically a MILF. Like, that's not even debatable. The sky is
Fluke
blue,
marm?
2 + 2 = 4, and we all want to fuck this thing.
Chill, bro.
And so
Chill.
this was the kingdom of
Chill,
Hallownest at its
dude.
height. Hallownest was a vast kingdom connected by a network of stagways and tram stations. The bugs of Hallownest mourned their dead on the resting grounds, engaged in commerce using Geo, the de facto
Yep.
currency of the region, and a thriving capital located in the middle of the kingdom.
Wow, wow,
The
wow.
Pale King had succeeded
So
in
cool.
crafting a full-blown society, but we all know
So
there
cool.
are pitfalls to living
Uh-oh.
in a society. As a suspiciously knowledgeable hunter points out in his journal, the Pale King had created a population of weak and pathetic creatures.
What?
The bugs of Hallownest did not hunt for their own food and had become complacent with their comfort. This is even more obvious with the east wing of the capital. These greedy
Look at
members
'em.
of Hallownest's high society became complete cowards, obsessed with riches and plum from excess
Wow.
wealth. The bugs living in Hallownest prime.
You play
looked
Roblox?
quite
Sorry,
different
homie, I
than
don't
the
play
instinctive
Roblox.
simpletons they once were. Their savagery had been replaced with intelligence, and through that intellect,
'Cause I do?
they gave the Pale
Put
King
the work on 'em, bro.
devotion and service he desired. And while there were a few snags along the way,
Whoa,
they
check
were
out all the
shining
plump
times for
worms.
the king and his subjects. Resting at the threshold of Hallownest is a strange lore tablet, proclaiming Hallownest to be the last
Higher beings, these words are for you alone. Beyond this point, you enter the land of the king and creator. Step across the threshold and obey our laws.
and only civilization.
Woo!
It calls Hallownest an eternal kingdom. This appears to have been the Pale King's goal, for Hallownest to stand against a wasted world as a final beacon for civilization.
Is free?
And
Let's play
that
together?
was the
I'm
Pale
good, brother.
King's
I
ultimate
appreciate it, though.
folly, to think that he could succeed where so many others had failed before. Long before the Pale Kings or the Barry Bensons of the world,
This guy's got
the land
Thanos
of Hallownest
plans.
was controlled by an ancient caste. Hints of Hallownest history are littered throughout the land, with the most notable examples being the soul totems
Those are-
and arcane eggs.
Those are so cool, actually.
One sect of these ancient bugs didn't worship a god like the Pale King or any lord, but instead a dark and mysterious substance known as the Void. This ancient
Oh, wait, that's what we're
caste
made out of,
once
right?
also tried to lay
Or part
claim
of
to
us?
the entire land of Hallownest, but they too failed. In his quest to conquer all of Hallownest, the Pale King had made an enemy long forgotten, an enemy that was
What?
about to be remembered.
Is this the Radiance? No, it's lots of
mentioned
fun.
earlier that the
I believe
Moth
it, bro.
tribe entirely
There's a lot
forgot
of other
about the
games I'd rather
Radiance
play.
in order to worship the Pale King, but that isn't quite true. Memories of her still lingered. and
Radiance
hushed whispers
must
of
kill
faith
all?
kept the Radiance alive.
True.
At the summit of the Crystal Peak, a location known as Hallownest Crown, a strange collection of glyphs can be found.
That's a
Joining
lot.
these glyphs is a statue of the Radiance,
That's the homie.
presiding over the kingdom below. This old summit is the sole standing shrine left to the Radiance.
Wait. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but guys, didn't the Moth Lady say that we have made a grim mistake and basically rejected the Radiance? That's what they were talking about, right? So the Dream Moth Lady really goofed. Well, Radiance does not want to kill them. Radiance just wants to take their free will away. Oh, really? Interesting. Interesting.
This was
Okay.
built in order to keep the memory of the Radiance
Welcome back, homie.
alive. The Radiance's light began to appear in the dreams of Hallownest citizens. This light manifested itself in an infection that ravaged through the kingdom's tunnels. Those infected would fall into a deep sleep and awaken with broken minds. Some of the lesser bugs tried to resist the Radiance's light, which only resulted in them being consumed by it even more so. Many infected bugs lost their wills and began attacking bugs that weren't infected. The infection also twisted the bodies of its hosts, causing them to bloat and occasionally develop orange cysts on their bodies.
Gross,
For many
dude.
victims, they were reverted back to their basic instincts, carrying out the duties they once fulfilled in life, but now as mindless slaves.
Rip.
Those caught up in the infection were linked into the Radiance's hive mind, allowing her to control their bodies if needed. As the infection spread across Hallownest, many groups looked to solutions.
Before the Pale King came, they had no free will, but when the Pale King came, he gave them the gift of mind. Yo, that's sick. That's actually sick. I can help you in Minecraft? I believe it, brother.
The gates to the city of
We'll pass on
were
Minecraft right now, though.
in an attempt to keep the infection from reaching the city. The stagways were also shut down at some point, and many of the stags eventually died out. But some took more proactive efforts against the infection. The scholars of the Soul Sanctum decided to harness the power of Soul in an attempt to fight the infection. This resulted in the deaths of hundreds of bugs, whose souls were sucked out and injected into the bodies of the scholars. Their goal was to achieve some kind of pure focus, which would somehow protect them from plagues of the mind. The scholars' leader, the Soul Master, was driven mad by the sheer power of Soul, and his entire sect failed to avoid infection.
So all those guys sucked the soul out of them. That's actually wicked, dude. Radiance made bug kind. What other multiplayer game you have on Steam? I've got a lot of different games on Steam, but right now, like after this, the next stream will actually be on Elden Ring, and we'll be running that, guys. Whole new game, whole new same vibe, but different game, right?
But hey, at least they took as many innocent people down with them as they could. The Mantis tribe, showing a stronger will than the common bug, were able to stave off the infection.
Yeah, the Mantis tribe goes hard.
One of the 4 Mantis lords turned against his sisters. He and his followers took in the infection willingly, as it gave them more strength and courage. At some point during all this, the Traitor Lord and his followers were exiled from the Mantis village, eventually taking up residence in the Queen's Gardens.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Ended up dying at some point. This is the same Mantis that was in a relationship with Zamir, one of the 5 Great Knights. But the Mantises rejected their union because of Zamir's outsideness.
Whoa!
As
Is
a
that
gamer, rejected their union because
is that her nail? You see how big that thing is right here? Is this her nail? It's freaking huge. Could you imagine this woman coming at you? Renella, Queen of the Full Moon. Spoilers.
Of Zamir's outsideness. As a gamer,
great nail?
this type of practice is all too familiar, and honestly, it makes me sick. With the 5 Great Knights completely useless to fight against the infection, the Pale King devised his own scheme. A scheme involving a strange substance known as Void.
Is this 5
As
head?
I mentioned earlier, the Pale King's White Palace was built in an area called the Ancient Basin, but his castle wasn't the only noteworthy thing down there. At the bottom of the Ancient Basin was the entrance to a pit, known as the Abyss. Within the Abyss was a lake composed of void. The Pale King realized that this void could be given form, as evidenced by an imprint of such, deep within the Abyss, possibly left there by the ancient civilization that predated Hallownest. The Pale King devised a workshop in his palace, where he placed void in armor shells imbued with soul, creating servants known as
That's actually crazy.
Wing molds. These void creatures were somehow imprinted with the desire of the Pale King, so that they would.
Wait, is that one of the collectors? Is the void a collector part of the void? Because it looks like the shape of one. Elden Ring is like now. I actually have Neo 1. I have all of Neo 1 and 2. I'm pretty sure in my Steam library. They're gonna be coming too. I've got
It
those
isn't
games in
clear
the
when
pipeline.
The Pale King started making these creatures.
Oh, it's those
There is
guys.
evidence
Those
to
guys are
imply that
sick.
even common bugs were aware of King's molds. But the point is, the Pale King turned to the void in order to create another creature, one that he believed could contain the radiance and her infection. He tried to create a pure vessel. The radiance's infection needs its host to have a will and a mind in order to enslave it. A pure vessel would be a creature made of void, designed to lack those features.
So
the Pale King believed that
it's
by
like
harnessing the
Belvar
void
from
inside a pure vessel, he would be able to stop the infection and keep Hallownest lasting eternal.
Really?
His method for creating this so-called pure vessel was incredibly cruel. This is where the White Lady and her King Kong-sized libido come into play. These two higher beings engaged in a union of some kind, resulting in the creation of several eggs that were dropped down into the abyss.
What?
There, the void seeped into these eggs, corrupting the offspring of the Pale King and the White Lady.
No,
this act resulted
dude.
in the creation of the vessels. The vessels are not technically considered to be alive.
So many.
They are shells created from the Pale King and White Lady that have been filled with the void. Within each vessel is a shade, a completely void being hidden behind the face of the vessel. Vessels are also non-gendered. I guess because they're dead or something? I'm not sure if that's how
I don't think they're actually alive.
I'm not an expert on these kinds of things. I don't work at ICE anymore.
No?
Thousands of vessels were created during this process, but only one was chosen as the pure vessel.
That's us.
This particular vessel, chosen by the Pale King, was deemed the Hollow Knight, and was taken away to the White Palace. But
oh, look, there's our baby crib.
A closer look at this part of the story. There are a number of questions and theories surrounding this moment that I really want to dig into. The big question surrounding
that's not us,
why
is
was
it?
the Hollow Knight chosen over any other vessel? One common theory is that the Pale King took these vessels back to the White Palace
that is Hollow Knight?
Using his giant collection of buzzsaws. This theory is probably the least likely explanation. It kinda exists just to explain the buzzsaws, which is quite the mystery, I'll admit, but doesn't really mesh with the vessels very well. How does being good at Super Meat Boy prove that you are a worthy vessel? And while thinking about logistics in a game about magic bugs is never a good idea, how exactly did the Pale King transfer these thousands of vessels to his palace without characters like the Dung Defender finding out?
So there were others?
Means that the Pale King probably
he didn't
made
know.
his decision without taking any of the vessels out of the abyss. So how did the Pale King make his evaluation?
Maybe
I think the best explanation
dream?
comes from a theory I originally heard from a user named Golden Flower Fan. Basically, the vessels were hatched down at the bottom of the abyss, and the first one to make it to the top was chosen by the Pale King. In memory of this event, we see vessels falling from above back down into the pit of the abyss. Perhaps these vessels weren't being cast down into the abyss, but fell while trying to escape out of it.
That's wicked.
The lore tablet outside the abyss appears to support this theory. It reads, "Our pure vessel has ascended. Beyond lies only the refuse and regret of its creation. We shall enter that place no longer." This tablet was likely written right after the Hollow Knight was chosen, considering that is when the entrance
there was
to the
literally
abyss was
1,000 of
sealed
those
off.
things, wasn't there?
The tablet proclaims that the pure
if not
vessel
1,000?
has ascended, or in other words, climbed out of the abyss. And while cut content should never be considered canon, I would just like to point out that an earlier version of this tablet, found in the game's code, was even more explicit about this.
Really?
It read, "From below, our pure vessel has ascended." But how does making it to the top of the abyss first prove that the Hollow Knight is somehow a perfectly hollow vessel? Well, I think this whole concept might just be a misconception. What if the Hollow Knight wasn't any different from the other vessels?
I haven't played the first one or the second one, but I own the games.
After all, the idea that the Hollow Knight was somehow more hollow than the other vessels comes from the fact that there were so many vessels created in the first place. If they only needed one, then why create so goddamn many? I mean, this is like Octomom.
Hey, there's Waldo.
Well, these are bugs we're talking about.
Again,
so it would make
looks
sense
sick
that
too. That game looks sick, bro.
Come from one egg. And it might have been a precaution to produce multiple vessels in hopes that at least one would be able to successfully escape the abyss.
That's a big egg. How's that tree mother thing pumping that egg and dropping it in the abyss when she's across the world? But now it's just piece of cake. It's the same thing with Hollow Knight when I first started, right?
Now another explanation could be that the Pale King just yeeted other vessels that made it to the top first, after determining that they weren't hollow.
True.
Which would better explain why so many were created. Ultimately, the
I could see that.
details aren't super important, but I do find it interesting how many
So
different
many.
interpretations can be pulled from this.
There
part
has
of
to be
the lore.
thousands of
After
those
the Hollow
things.
Knight was chosen, the Pale King sealed the doorway to the Abyss, leaving the discarded vessels to rot away in darkness. These actions were not taken lightly by the Pale King or the White Lady. Both participants expressed shame in what they did, but saw no other option to save the kingdom. But the vessels weren't the only poor saps sealed away in the Abyss.
Who else
There's
was?
also a lighthouse that was built
Oh,
on
I
top
forgot
of
about
a
that.
naturally formed spire, its light shining down on an ocean of abyss below. Inside
We did this.
was one of the Pale King's royal retainers, who was left in charge of keeping the lighthouse turned on. So this brave soul was willingly sealed in a dark and dangerous tomb for the rest of his life, just so he could not pull a lever. Well, at least he was living with purpose. With the
Rip.
Abyss sealed and the Hollow Knight chosen, the Pale
Rip.
King's plan was beginning to come together. The Hollow Knight was raised and trained to prime form, causing it to grow several times its original size. We don't know exactly why this happened, but I guess the Hollow Knight is just a grower and not a shower.
True. Grower, not a shower. Yeah. I relate. Hashtag relatable, brother. I get it. Minecraft better than you at Minecraft? Question mark. I hope you are.
We know that the Hollow Knight was trained to use a nail, but why was this even necessary? One
His
possible
nail is
explanation
sick.
is that the Hollow Knight needed to protect itself in case an intruder tried to kill it. You know, like the player. Or
Like
perhaps
us.
This was important in the process of containing the radiance. Unfortunately, the details
Containing?
of that are never fully explained. The Hollow Knight might have somehow focused the radiance inside itself, but Team Cherry gives us no explanation of how that might have worked. But that still wasn't enough for the Pale King.
What a wicked
Additional
storyline.
seals were needed in order to protect the Hollow Knight's physical body while the radiance was trapped inside of it. To achieve this, the Pale King sought the help of
Check
three
'em
particular
out.
bugs, who would later be known as the Dreamers: Lurien the Watcher,
Yeah, the Dreamers are cool.
Waddlemon the Teacher, and Hera the Beast. Lurien is definitely the most mysterious of the three Dreamers. He
Is that the one in
lived
the tower?
Watcher's Spire in the City
Yeah.
of Tears. From there, Lurien watched over the city with his telescope. Lurien was a pretty big fan of the king, so it probably took little convincing for him
Villagers?
to lie down for him.
Yeah, bro.
Lurien might also be tied to another strange incident that occurred in the City of Tears. Hidden on
What
some
was
of Lurien's
it?
lore tablets are images of jars, the same jars that can be found stockpiled in the Tower of Love. This building
Oh,
sits on the outskirts of the city, and is the setting of one of the most bizarre bosses in the game.
the Collector.
The Collector is a void construct
There's his mold.
that appears to
There's
have
his
been
mold,
made from the
dude.
same mold used to create the King's molds.
That's what I thought,
But the
dude.
Collector is
I called
unique
it.
because, well, The Collector
Hey.
is in the Tower of Love with a noble bug who likely owned the establishment. In the tower, a number
This
of
is the
bugs
love
can be
one.
found captured in jars, implying that these two were tasked with collecting these creatures. However, the Collector somehow became obsessed with grubs, creating a map to keep track of grubs it captured in jars,
What?
as well as keeping a strange shrine displaying a grub in the style of the Vitruvian Man. Eventually,
What?
the bug staying with the Collector decided to lock it inside the Tower of Love, and fled to the Queen's Gardens, where it died, likely due to overexposure
That's
to the void.
crazy.
Despite being locked up in the tower, the Collector is still spotted by the Hunter at some point.
Oh, that's the Hunter? I didn't know the Hunter actually can stand up once you give all the once you finish the lore for the Hunter, all the little lore tablets. I didn't realize he looks
Which either
sick,
means this
bro.
only happened
Unless I missed
recently,
him.
or the Hunter has been farting around in Hallownest for a long-ass time. We have no idea what these creatures were trying to do. It's implied that the Collector
Multiplayer randomizer. I'm debating on doing it. We'll see what time it is after we're done with
was
the video
trying to preserve the creatures of Hallownest,
and doing the ranking
perhaps
list.
trying to protect them from the spread of the infection. But we don't know where the Collector's obsession with grubs originated. And while Lurien does seem connected
so the
to all of
Collector
this,
actually
we
did
don't
it.
know how involved he was with this operation, or what its end goal exactly was.
One-eyed Lyrian.
Waddlemon the Teacher lived in the Teacher's Archives, a library built atop a lake of acid in the Fog Canyon.
So
The lower
cool.
half of her body consists of tentacles, making her a popular subject for the thriving Hollow Knight R34 community.
Bruh.
The archives and the
Come
Fog
on.
Canyon as a whole are also filled with these strange Metroid knockoffs. These creatures are likely related to Monomon in some way.
They're
They
so
could
cool.
be her live offspring, her test tube babies, or possibly even her shit. Motomon uses futuristic cathoid ray tube things
Those
to
are
store
so cool.
information about Hallownest. Several terminals in the teacher's archive go into detail about the Pale King's plan to defeat the Radiance, indicating that Motomon
Wicked,
had
guys.
intimate knowledge of what she was taking part in. Finally, the Pale King sought the help of Hera the Beast, the Queen of Deepnest. Now, as I mentioned earlier,
This is
relations between
his
Hallownest and
nail.
Deepnest were
Or this
kinda
is Hornet's mom, right?
not great. Unlike the other two dreamers, Hera needed to be convinced in order
Yeah, guys, this is Hornet's mom, I'm pretty
to
sure.
help the Pale King. Hera would eventually agree to become a dreamer in exchange for a child. The Pale King agreed, and the two engaged in a dalliance, which is a fancy way of
Yes?
saying they
Sick.
totally boned. The White Lady was
Ooh.
okay with this arrangement. In fact, she might have been watching from the closet. The motive behind Hera's request is never elaborated on, but it appears as though the
Chill.
King of Deepnest was dead at this point. Hera was a common bug, so perhaps she desired the Pale King's
She's a
pale
chonker.
seed so that her child could be of high birth. The bargain between Hera and the Pale King resulted in the birth of Hornet. She became known as the gendered child because, unlike the Pale King's other children, Hornet was not hollowed out by the Abyss. Hera and Hornet spent little time together, as Hera had to make good on her end of the bargain.
Hornet's B, dude.
And so the three dreamers were put to rest. Through their actions, a seal was placed over the black egg, prohibiting entrance into the chamber. These dreamers also had their own protection. At the base of Lurian's spire,
Oh, there's the
Watcher
Knights.
Knights
I like
guarded
the
access
Watcher
to
Knights
their
are cool.
master's body. Motomon's body was protected by a giant jellyfish named Umu. On top of this, Motomon entrusted her servant Quirrell with a mask which would be required
Oh, that's her
to break
servant?
an additional seal she had placed over herself. So she basically is double wrapping herself. As for Hera, we're not really sure what protected her.
What
since
is... That looks like one of those crab things in the ocean. That looks sick.
is never actually seen in-game. We don't know where this creature is hiding, but whoever it is, they really suck at their job. Now there appears to be one more element to the Pale
That
King's
is
plan,
sick, dude.
involving the Weavers. Hidden away in the Weaver's den is an incomplete seal of binding, woven from silk. This design prominently features the Hollow Knight's head, and can be found in the White Palace, as well as blocking the exit during the Hollow Knight fight. Silk
What?
spools created by the Weavers can be found in the Stag Station in Deepnest,
So the
as
silk
well
pools-
as the Stag Station next to the White Palace. These spools can also be found in the Pale King's workshop. We know that the Weavers were closely tied to Hera and Hornet, so their
The Weavers
actions
have some
might been a
crazy,
part of
like,
the deal
powers.
between the Pale King and Hera. Once the Hollow Knight was ready, the Radiance was somehow channeled into the vessel, which was then placed inside of a giant black egg located in the Forgotten Crossroads.
I'll be curious to see
This
where...
egg was built to sustain the Hollow Knight, and
The others
itself
come-
appears to
come
be
in.
fashioned from void. The Hollow Knight was chained up, and the entrance to the black egg was locked behind a powerful seal created by the three dreamers. Initially,
Wicked.
this convoluted plan actually worked, and the infection was successfully contained. Memorials to the Hollow Knight and the Dreamers were erected in the City of Tears and the resting
What?
grounds. But this is the part of the story where things get a little bit hazy. By the time these statues were constructed, citizens had taken to writing on parchment woven from spider silk, which was all destroyed when water started pouring down onto the city. We don't know
Dang.
how long the Hollow Knight was able to completely contain the infection. Bugs from Dirtmouth used to go to the Temple of the Black Egg to pray, saying they felt at peace within the walls. But after a while, they stopped going, perhaps indicating that the infection was beginning to leak out again. The infectious air continued to seep through
Look,
Hallownest
there's
for
one of the
years,
homies.
eventually even reaching the deepest parts of the kingdom. As it turns out, the Pale King's pure vessel wasn't quite so pure after all. The Hollow Knight had been tarnished by an idea instilled.
Yep.
While the game never explicitly tells us what that idea was, it does hint strongly at what it might be. Hidden away in the White Palace is a memory showing the Hollow Knight and the Pale King sharing a moment.
Oh, yeah,
The Hollow
that's
Knight
when
might
we
have
got done with
developed
Path
a
of
parental
Pain.
bond to the Pale King. And who could blame it? The Pale King is a pretty great dad after all. You know, if you ignore the infanticide and everything.
He's a
Remember
homie.
those smug mushroom dickheads? Well, it turns out their trust in the Pale King was a complete mistake. That shared mind isn't looking too good now, is it? In the fungal core, the corpse of a giant mushroom lies dormant.
Yep, that's the
Its final
Gigamind.
thoughts were, "Pale worm, what good to see a demise unavoidable?" This could imply that the Pale King always
Rip.
knew that his kingdom was doomed. All he could do was delay the inevitable. This
Rip.
is likely the moment when Halnest, as it once was, entirely collapsed. The Hollow Knight had not completely
So he just
stopped
tried
the
to slow it
infection,
down.
and while it may have taken a while, Halnest was eventually brought low. It's at this point that characters and areas begin to resemble as we know them in-game. When it became clear that the Hollow Knight was not able to contain the radiance, the Pale King resorted to his final plan. He fucked off, hiding himself, his White Palace, and his Pale
Oh,
Court
that was-
in the dream world.
Wait, that was where his White Palace was? The homie dipped out. He got out of there.
At this point, all of the furniture in the palace was covered under white sheets, similar to how people in the real world cover their furniture while away on long trips. The palace was also completely covered with thorns and buzzsaws, similar
What?
to how people in the real world cover their houses with thorns and buzzsaws.
True.
The Pale King would eventually pass away while sitting on his throne in the White Palace. There's no confirmation on what killed him, but there are a few things to consider. The throne room is incredibly dark compared to the rest of the palace, and the particle effects and ambient track in this room are identical to that of the Abyss.
Maybe he got
All
consumed
of the
by
king's
it.
molds surrounding the Pale King are dead. The ancient basin itself also has become stained with the presence of void, as it can be seen as high as the rundown elevator shaft leading back to the
Rip,
city.
guys.
Remember that bug that was sealed away in the Abyss to make sure the lighthouse wasn't turned off?
Yeah.
Well, the lighthouse was turned off. I guess that whole living with purpose thing is a crock of shit after all. It seems as though the Sea of Void
Got
itself
him.
actually convinced this bug to betray his king and turn off the lighthouse. Now I know what you're thinking. Exactly how conscious is the Void? Is the Void able to think for itself? Can it form
Is it a full
strategies?
being?
Does it host a podcast? Well, according to this Chozo statue ripoff, the Void is powerful, but not unified. So while it can thrash around at things that come near it, or call out in unison to turn off a light, it's not a single conscious being.
So it's
Getting
just
back to the Pale King,
it's just a bunch of
one could
individuals?
argue that the Void might have played a role in his ultimate demise, and I've argued that viewpoint in the past. But we have to remember that there isn't enough evidence to know for sure. As an
mean, there
expert
is
lawyer
little
and a good friend
void
of
dots
mine,
bouncing
Johnny
around.
Cochran once said, "Any evidence that the Void was involved in the Pale King's death is circumstantial."
true.
My name is Johnny Cochran. Just above the White Palace,
Nice,
the bugs
dude.
in the
Good
City
one.
of Tears weren't
Good
faring
bop.
much better. Even if we ignore the fact that the infection was still around, there were other issues that helped lead to the city's downfall. Due to the gates being sealed, some bugs resorted to cannibalism in order to avoid starvation. And there's also that metric fuckton of corpses lining the walls of the Soul Sanctum.
That's when they
When all
suck
was
the
said
souls
and
out of
done,
them.
The only citizen left standing is Eternal Emelita, who just laughs her ass off about it like she's a fucking Dark Souls character. The White Lady ends up in a cocoon deep within the Queen's
Hey, this is Dark
gardens.
Souls
She
music.
decided to place bindings on herself in order to keep her from spreading her seed. She claims that this is because of the shame she feels in helping the Pale King create the vessels. But honestly,
Radiance?
it's probably just her kink. The White Lady also diminished her power, possibly as a way to keep herself hidden from unwanted visitors. Outside her cocoon, Dryas
We know
stood
them.
guard, protecting her queen from the violent traitor mantises. Dryas is eventually killed off by these
Radiance in a
bugs,
nutshell?
which
True.
is actually pretty pathetic if you think about it. I mean, we're talking like the Netgear WPN824N N150
Big
wireless router
juicer,
pathetic.
dude.
Speaking of great knights dying pathetically, let's move on to Hagemol.
Yeah, what
Hagemol
happened to
held the
him?
city crest, a
Didn't
key
he just
used to
get-
open one of the
didn't
gates
he just
to
get
the City
snuck
of
up on?
Tears. At some point, Hagemol's armor shell was stolen by a maggot.
Yeah,
Now, maggots
stolen.
were generally looked down upon and forced to do menial labor. They were incredibly weak and basically deserved all of the discrimination they
Yo,
got.
dude.
But this one
Real
maggot
Radiance
decided
name?
to turn the tide, so he stole Hagemol's shell so that he could defend his downtrodden brothers. His actions weren't motivated by the infection, but instead was
Look
the
at
result
him.
of
Poor
how
homies,
hierarchical
dude.
caste systems will always lead to revolution from the working class, and that true freedom can only be achieved, blah blah blah, capitalism is bad, subscribe to my Patreon.
Okay, thanks,
Ogre
dude.
moved
Will
to the
do.
Royal Waterways
Copy
and
that.
started living in shit, changing his name to Dung Defender. Now, I love wallowing in shit as much as the next guy, but you'd have to really love shit to put up with living with the flukes. The Dung Defender kept an unwavering sense of duty and loyalty to the king, and love for his fellow knights. So much
Dung
so that he
Defender's
made
just
shit
such a
statues
homie.
of them. How nice. Ogrim acted as the defender
Dung
of the
Defender's a
pipeways,
homie.
as well as Isma's Grove. A section of the Royal Waterways became filled with acid, and in the middle of it all rests Isma's corpse, which has been
Rip.
overcome by plant life. Isma
How did I
is
never
likely the
notice
one
her?
responsible for this acid blight, but we have no idea
I
what
never
happened
noticed
to
her.
Hornet's whereabouts during this time are fairly mysterious. We know that
Nah,
she
bro, I ain't
departed
playing
Deepnest and
Attack
didn't
on. I'm
return
not
until the
playing.
events of the game.
Not playing
At
that,
some
bro.
point,
Get
she
out of
took to
here.
guarding Halnest from intruding warriors, as well as the cast-off shell in the Kingdom's Edge. Despite the Kingdom's woes
Really?
at large, fortunately this fate did not befall one of the fandom's favorite characters.
Yeah,
The
here with that
Menderbugs
mess.
continued to fix the
Oh, it's
broken
our
signs
homies.
and wayposts of Halnest.
Hey, it's our
From a diary
homies.
entry, we can see that one Menderbug in particular had found himself on the precipice of a long and loving relationship.
Hello again, diary. Not long now until the next Minder Bash. For us stealthy types, we're a riotous bunch when we get together.
Bruh.
And Menderberry kept flashing me that smile. It might be time to muster my courage and act on it. I love my
Hey.
home and my life, but sharing it with another? Why, that'd be the berry on top.
Greenpath
That's it, the
also
berry on
underwent some
top.
changes during this
Get
time.
it, bro. Don't
The
touch
Mosskin
the
were waiting for
child.
Un's call, which would bring them back into the dream they were originally born from. But for some reason, Un's strength deteriorated. We don't know why this happened exactly. Was it due to the White Lady claiming part of her kingdom? Was it somehow due to the infection? Some Mosskin believe that Un
What?
went into hiding, but it appears as though Un is, in fact, calling to her children. But many of the Mosskin are unable to hear her call. Instead, many Mosskin seem to have taken the Radiance's infection into their leaves.
Rip.
Which might explain why Greenpath became overgrown with vegetation, despite Un's
Because of the
superior
radiance. That
powers.
makes sense.
Mossy vagabonds even openly chose to forsake Un and worship the Radiance. Another
Rip.
tribe to be screwed over by the Radiance is the Hive, which fell to the infection after
B-boys.
the death of their leader, Hive Queen Vespa. But it appears as though this had little effect on their civilization.
Hive Queen Vespa's huge.
The
Would be a
Radiance's
crazy
hive
cool
mind was
boss.
already
Could be.
familiar to the bees, since the Hive probably operated under something similar already. So in other words, the Hive probably made out the best in this whole situation. Let's turn our attention back to the moths. After all, it's their god that keeps killing everybody. Well,
True.
the moth tribe didn't fare too well, actually, as pretty much the entire tribe died out. The only known survivor is the seer. Despite the loss of her tribe, the seer continued to tend to the graves in the resting grounds.
What a
while also
homie.
awaiting the arrival of the wielder, a mysterious being that her tribe has dreamt of for a while. In
Is
the
that
Kingdom's
us?
Edge, the land became covered in ash.
I think we are the
melting off
wielder.
of the worm's decomposing corpse. The Colosseum of Fools continued to thrive. The Lord Fool passed away at some point, but nobody really seems
Vinci
to notice
Resolve.
or even care. The fools inside the Colosseum were infected.
I used
but
DaVinci
still seem to
Resolve,
have
the free
maintained
version.
Control over themselves. It seems possible that these bugs took in the infection willingly, similar to the Traitor Lord and his followers.
So they can get
This would
stronger.
have given them an edge in combat, similar to using steroids, but without the whole shrinking testicles thing. However, even the Traitor Lord and his followers went mad, so what makes these fools any more special? As for the Pale King's champion,
Maybe it's
the
because
Pale
they're
Lurker,
slightly out of.
well, she just went the normal
area?
kind of insane.
Oh, that's a
There
her.
appears to have been another unforeseen event with the Pale King's plan. When the Hollow Knight was originally chosen, the door to the Abyss was sealed, trapping the discarded vessels within. But apparently, some vessels didn't get the memo.
I thought that was part of the plan.
Vessel corpses can be found littered throughout the kingdom. There's one in the Ancient Basin,
Well,
one in
that's-
Greenpath,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
several trapped in Nosk's lair in Deepnest.
Rip.
Another vessel that escaped from the Abyss is the player character.
That's
the
us.
Knight. The exact details on how the vessels escaped the Abyss is unclear. There are indications that they might have slipped into Deepnest through some old passageway, given void influences in part of the area, and all the corpses found in Nosk's lair.
Yo, what would
At
be
some
crazy?
point, all entrances to Hollownest were closed off, with the old well and Earthmouth being the only way to sneak back in. Despite this, several people have wormed their way into the kingdom.
Oh, that's
with
our
few
homie.
ever returning. Characters like Relic Seeker Lem seemed content to just pillage artifacts from the ruined kingdom, but other bugs seemed interested in something greater. In the Howling Cliffs rests the
that
corpse
was-
of a member of the Grimm troop.
Yeah.
The task of this bug appears to have been to seek out Halonest, so that the troop might be summoned to the kingdom in the future. The Grimm troop are basically a group of bugs that serve a higher being
Big
known
cult.
as the Nightmare Heart.
Like a cult.
The troop keeps the heart alive by feeding on the nightmares of fallen kingdoms. This process also involves sacrificing the troop master to his own child because... Hey, look at this cool-ass boss battle. Another important group that traveled to Halonest are the godseekers. After being abandoned by their old gods, the gods of thunder and the gods of rain, these bugs left their home in the land of storms, seeking out a new god to worship. The godseekers looked to gods to save them from their own silent mind. While traveling through the wastelands, the
Silent
godseekers
mind, so they're brain
constructed
dead?
devices called god tuners, which helped them seek out new gods. Through this device, they were able to
it's
detect
actually
the lingering power of...
It's actually pretty cool that a lot of these bosses and these beings are similar to actual bugs in some capacity, to where they need their higher bug to follow, otherwise they're brain dead. You know what I mean? Like they need a path to follow, just like most people.
of the Pale
It's actually
King
crazy.
and find their way to Halonest. When they arrived, however, the Godseeker was forced into hibernation. She was encased in a strange
And locked.
sarcophagus-like cocoon, which was itself chained up with a lock. It's not clear how this forced hibernation worked, seeing as the cocoon appears to have been made by the Godseeker herself. As for who put the cocoon in chains, I think the most
Maybe
likely
Dung?
candidate is the Dung Defender.
Really?
Considering how the Godseeker's cocoon is found in the junk pit in the water.
You can visit the first God Tuner and also the Land of Storms? Really?
Ways, an area the Dung Defender has tasked himself with protecting. This was the general picture of Halonest after the Hollow Knight was sealed inside the Temple of the Black Egg.
Like
The
crap
kingdom
you
was
do
stuck in
that.
a kind of stasis, with the Pale King civilization destroyed and the Radiance unable to break free from her chains. The Pale King was rebelling against nature, trying to keep his work standing indefinitely. The stasis over Halonest held for an age. How long is that exactly? Well, we have no idea.
Assuming
As I'm sure
pretty
you've
fairly
noticed, there
long,
really
because
isn't
the
a
kingdom is
timeline
huge.
for anything that happens in this game. We also have no idea how long any of these bugs can actually live. Elderbug wasn't
True.
around to see the stagways
True.
open, but we know several other characters were, implying that Elderbug is probably one of the youngest characters in the whole game. But this stasis over Halonest wasn't going to last forever. At
Minecraft
some
we could
point,
have
the
fun?
Radiance
True, Minecraft we
erupted
could have
out of
fun,
the
bro.
Hollow Knight, cracking its shell and releasing a loud and powerful roar. The amount of infection leaking out of the Hollow Knight became even greater. The many corpses that lined the roads and cities of the kingdom sprang to life with the amplified power.
It's kind of like taking a nice big poo, bro. You know how like the first initial drop is just like a clunk, and then the rest of them is like it's a number 3. The rest of it's like a kind of like that.
Power of
Once the leak
infection.
starts coming out,
This
it's just a full
strengthened
sin.
infection prompted the departure of the Weavers back to their
Older than
old home.
Elderbug?
Now,
What?
this old home might actually be Farloom, the kingdom in which Hollow Knight Silksong takes place. But the amount of knowledge we have about Silksong right now is pathetic, so I'm not saying that's confirmed or anything. This is
True.
also around the time that Quirrell
That God Tuner has a change to go to every time. Oh yeah, they change every time you go to the God Seeker. But when you do get it, it's one-time thing. The Land of Storms is unlocked by defeating all the pantheons with all bindings. Wow, that's actually ridiculous.
arrives back in Halonest. His memory of Motomon appears to have been clouded due to his time outside of Halonest. These events are depicted in the Quirrell prequel comic, which also shows an image of the Hollow Knight with a pre-cracked shell. This could mean that Quirrell's arrival happens roughly the same time the Hollow Knight's shell cracks. At around the same time Quirrell arrives in Halonest, we also see the arrival of the player character.
That's
who is
us.
commonly referred to as the Knight. The Knight was one of the lucky vessels that was able to make its way out of the abyss. Somehow the Knight ended up venturing beyond Halonest and into the wilds beyond. It's implied that the Knight was called to Halonest by either the sealed Hollow Knight or the Radiance within. Regardless, once the Knight shows up and yeets itself off this cliff, the actual game of Hollow Knight finally begins.
That's us. That's us.
Now, there's a lot of details we could
Start
get
but much
into.
dumber.
Halonest is full of NPCs and bosses, each with their own stories to tell. But to be honest, I don't think we need to go through all of them, since their stories are relatively straightforward. For example,
True.
let's look at the Brooding Moloch. So
Tell
why
it-
is the Brooding Moloch brooding? because all its friends are dead.
Rip, dude.
And there you go. That's the lore for the Brooding Moloch. Also, it's the only character in the game with a visible asshole. Now, do you really need me to explain that to you?
Come
Probably
on,
not.
dude.
So instead, I'm just going to talk about the interactions relating to Hollow Knight's main story. The Knight is eventually
There's a
noticed by
lot
Hornet,
of lore in
who
this
lures
game.
it deep into Greenpath. There, Hornet attempts to kill the Knight, claiming that she knows what it would try to do. At this point, Hornet views the Knight as being too weak. After the fight, Hornet
know
can
we
be
put the
found in
work on
City
him?
of Tears, next
Oh.
to the statue of the Hollow Knight.
Yeah, that's B.
Hornet mentions that the Knight has gained a resilience due to the time it spent in the void beyond Hallownest. This could be referring to the fact that some of those
Oh.
who leave Hallownest lose their memories, meaning the Knight would have no memories of its own tragic
Part that I can skip
conception.
with Vengeance Spirit.
Hornet tells the Knight that if it seeks to continue the stasis that keeps Hallownest standing, it must seek the Graven Ash, which is
Well,
referring
that's
to
us.
the Kingdom's Edge. At this moment, Hornet sees the Knight as a
So the God Tuner is unlocked by dream nailing the Godseeker. There is a little percent that you go there.
possible replacement
That's freaking
for the
wicked.
Hollow Knight.
It's actually
Basically,
wicked.
The Knight could break the seals that keep the Hollow Knight locked away, defeat the Hollow Knight, and contain the infection itself. It's at this point that I should mention that Hollow Knight actually has 5 different endings, because of course it would. I'm going to be explaining each of
5?
these endings in this video, as
Let's
they each give us
go.
a different glimpse into the mechanics of Hollow Knight's world. Now, to get the easiest ending
I've seen
to Hollow
3 of
Knight,
them.
Hornet's instructions to go to the Kingdom's Edge can be ignored completely. If the Knight stumbles upon the resting grounds, the 3 dreamers will appear and cast the Knight into the dream realm.
We've done that.
There, Seer will come to the Knight's rescue and grant it the Dream Nail, a special blade that can tear the veil between
Embrace the
real
void
world
ending?
and the dream world.
We'll see if it does it here.
With the Dream Nail, the Knight can venture to the resting places of the 3 dreamers, curb stomp their asses, and unlock the entrance to the Black Egg.
Ooh.
Inside the egg, the Knight finds the Hollow Knight chained up, silently watching over it. Once the chains are broken, the Hollow Knight screams with that familiar radiance roar and
Bring it on,
pursues
big
the
guy.
Knight. As the fight progresses, the Hollow Knight starts trying to kill itself, Quirrell style. But then the
Does it
Radiance
do it?
starts using the Hollow Knight's body
Does it
to
win?
perform her own attacks. Once defeated, the Hollow Knight begins to spew infection all over the place. The Knight can then focus the infection
Whoa,
into
dude.
itself. This results in the first ending of the game, called Hollow Knight.
And that's
In
where
this
we
ending,
juiced
the
up.
Knight usurps the Hollow Knight, prolonging the stasis over Hallownest. New chains and bindings appear out of fuck if I know, and contain the Knight, and a new seal is placed over the entrance to the Black Egg. Now there is one giant question looming over this ending. Can the Knight actually contain the infection indefinitely, or will the Radiance still manage to break free one day?
That's a good question.
Before we answer this question, let's look at some of the other events that can transpire while playing the game. If
Is
the
it
player
worth?
chooses to go to Kingdom's Edge, Hornet will challenge the Knight one last time as a final test of strength. After her defeat,
I don't know if I've
allows
done
the
it,
Knight
did
to
I?
access the cast-off shell.
Yeah, I did.
where
I
the
did all
Pale
this. I
King
don't know
was
why I'm questioning
originally
myself.
hatched. By interacting with this egg, the Knight's shell is marked with the King's brand, technically making the Knight the new ruler of Hallownest. With the King's brand, the Knight can now open the entrance to the Abyss and discover the place of its birth. When leaving the Abyss, the Knight can encounter Hornet again, where for the first
Yes,
time,
dude.
Hornet suggests that there are actually 2 outcomes the Knight can enact. She tells the Knight that it can either prolong Hallownest stasis or face the heart of the Kingdom's infection. Within
we're facing
Knight,
the heart,
Hornet sees
baby.
a chance for change. Instead of just replacing the Hollow Knight, Hornet
Almost there to
believes
the
it
ending?
may be
Okay, got
possible
it, got
to
it.
get rid of the infection completely by using the void inside of the Knight. After visiting the Abyss and obtaining the Shade Cloak, the Knight is capable of reaching the White Lady, hidden away in the Queen's gardens. The White Lady
Yes!
tells the Knight that
That's
she
Mom,
is
right?
a vessel to accept a gift. That gift being one half of a charm called the King's Soul, which she claims will give
about to go to the
Knight
White
more power.
Palace.
The White Lady goes on to explain that she can feel the weakening of the Hollow Knight within her roots. She tells the Knight that it is free of the blemishes that made the Hollow Knight a flawed vessel. From this dialogue, it is implied that the Knight truly
Then how did the
is a
flawed
pure
vessel make it?
capable of containing the Radiance successfully. But it's not quite that simple, so we're going to have to dig a bit deeper into this. Basically, we're going to need to answer a simple question. What exactly does it mean to be a Hollow Knight? Despite the White Lady's words, we have a number of instances where the characters and item descriptions mention that the Knight has a will, and maybe even a mind.
Wait,
But
what?
From the Pale King's dialogue when describing the Hollow Knight, It is stated that a pure vessel has no mind or will.
Then
So
how
is
do
the White
we-
Lady wrong?
how do
Or
we
maybe
do it?
even lying? Her eyes have been clouded by time, and she can
Star,
be tricked
what's
into
up?
thinking that Ogrim is in the room when the knight is wearing the Defender's Crest charm.
What?
She also thinks that Drya is still alive, which,
Rip.
So maybe the White Lady is just senile. My problem with that theory is that the White Lady states that the vessels stand out to her clearly in a misted world, due to
Interesting.
them being her spawn. She also questions whether or not the knight sought her aid, which would imply that the knight must.
This lady, the White Lady, literally has a GPS tracker on everybody. If she was pumping, her kids have a GPS tracker on them. All right, that she's literally like that. She's like those the parents, you know, who keep a GPS tracker on them at all times because they can't trust their kids. Something like that. Exactly like that.
Must have
Not for safety,
some
but because
kind
they
of
don't trust
will.
them.
So for whatever reason, the White Lady thinks the knight is still capable of containing the radiance, even if it's still able to make decisions. After all, the Hall Knight was considered pure, but they still taught it how to wield a fucking sword.
True.
I mean, if the knight
True
were truly
and true.
completely hollow in a literal sense, it probably shouldn't even be able to walk, or draw a map, or open a goddamn bank account. In short, this whole concept of being hollow is so abstract and hard to define, I don't really feel comfortable giving a solid answer on whether or not
It seems like
the
this
knight
is, like,
or
stuff in
isn't
between.
truly hollow.
White Lady is blind, so she doesn't know what shape you are. Oh, really?
And I think the
I
game
didn't know
leaves
that.
room open for other interpretations. Of course, the White Lady's gift is useless without the other half of the King's Soul. In order to reach it, however, the knight must travel to the White Palace, locked inside the body of a King's Bold. In order to bypass the seal, the knight must use a fully awakened dream nail. It can do this by bringing 1800 essence to the seer,
We did it.
allowing her to sharpen the weapon's blade. If the knight does this, the seer remarks that the knight truly is the wielder that her tribe has been dreaming of. There's no explicit reason why the Moth tribe was dreaming about this supposed wielder so much, but it seems like they believe the wielder
radiance.
would wash away the crimes the Moth tribe committed by turning their backs on the Radiance. The seer
Yeah.
seems to know that the knight might kill the Radiance, and she
I'm
seems
confused
accepting
then.
of it,
Is that-
ready for her and her tribe to disappear.
I mean, is she... it seems like that she is the reason why all... Like, her tribe is the reason why all this started in the first place. She also says something when you use Grimm Child and talk to her, and she says something like, familiar flame? Really? Blah, blah, blah? Interesting.
And be forgotten forever.
Interesting.
With the awoken dream nail in hand, the knight can travel to the Pale King's refuge and locate the other half of the King's Soul charm. When equipped, the King's Soul provides a never-ending supply of soul, making it almost useful if it weren't for the insanely high cost of the charm,
Yes.
and the painfully slow rate at which it increases,
yes.
and the fact that the charm will get replaced in about 5 minutes after you get it.
Also
The
true.
King's Soul charm itself symbolizes the union between two higher beings. To me, this implies that the King's Soul is a representation of a vessel, which also was created by the union of two higher beings.
Pump,
With
pump,
the King's Soul
chill.
in their inventory, the knight now gains access to an area in the abyss called the Birthplace. In this massive
went there.
pile of vessel shells, the knight can find a giant egg. Dream nailing the egg allows the knight to access its own memory when it
You can also know that Melib, the banker, is bad because your pets will attack her. Oh, I didn't
was
even
cast
think
down
about
into
that.
The abyss. From viewing
Really?
that memory, the King's Soul charm is replaced with the Void Heart charm. The recollection of this event allows the knight to come to
Wait. Time out. Yep, she's the thief. She's a thief. I remember beating the crap out of her and getting all my money back. But that right here, this part right here, guys, look at this.
Replaced with the Void Heart charm. The recollection of this event memory to access its own
Look,
memory
right here.
when it was cast down into the abyss.
Boom. See how we're casted down? That gives the theory of once they made it to the top, if they weren't a pure vessel, or the Pale King thought that they were a pure vessel, he casted them back down into the abyss, and it kind of instates that here he goes over that. It kind of re-implies that theory, right? Which is sick. That's
From
sick.
viewing that memory, the King's Soul charm is replaced with the Void Heart charm.
Yep.
The recollection of this event allows the knight to come to terms with the void inside itself. Once the knight has the Void Heart, the shades in the abyss no
There
longer
it
attack
is.
it, and that strange creature that gives the knight the Shade Cloak calls it the Lord of Shades. In other words, the Knight has now bound the once
What?
fragmented Void under its own will, allowing it to control the Void in a powerful new way.
Oh,
With
that's
the
how we
union of
beat
Void,
the
Pale
Radiance.
King and the White Lady, the Knight has gained a strength before unseen. It is with this charm that 2 additional endings become unlocked. Hornet will now be standing outside of the Black Egg, offering to
It's
help
our
the Knight
homie.
should the opportunity arrive. Midway through the fight with the Hollow Knight, Hornet rushes into battle, subduing the Hollow Knight and piercing its shell. It's at this point that the Knight is given the perfect opportunity
Yes,
to enter
that's
into
us.
the mind of its sibling, fighting the source of the infection head on, and finally putting an end to the Radiance's tyranny. Or it can just stand there and let Hornet get knocked unconscious. If the Knight finishes off the Hollow Knight as usual,
True.
the sealed
Ending
sibling
2.
ending occurs. Basically, it's the same as the Hollow Knight ending, but now Hornet is in the room too, and her face appears on the door of the Black Egg.
Rip.
It's not clear what exactly this means for Halnest.
Rip.
This might imply that Hornet is now a dreamer,
Seen
but
at the-
she's
the
inside
biggest-
the temple, meaning that no one can actually get in there to
Biggest
kill
form
her
at the
should
end of
Knight
P5,
ever start
really?
leaking infection. At the same time, Hornet mentions that the bindings of the Black Egg would drain her, so she's probably just going to die anyway, right? Generally, people consider this to be one of the worst endings, but it's worth pointing out that Team Cherry doesn't support any one ending as being the true ending. Each ending is canonical in its own right, and honestly, this ending isn't the worst. At least the Knight and Hornet will get to spend some quality time together. If
With the
Knight
homies.
does
Yeah, they're
dream of the
homies.
Hollow Knight, it will be taken to an arena where it can finally fight the Radiance head on. But the
1v1
Knight is
me,
alone,
bro.
as the other shades from the Abyss will appear in order to help corner the Radiance.
Because he's the Shade Lord, right?
Eventually, the Radiance gets trapped in the tendrils of the Void. The Knight bitch slaps her a couple times, and then the Radiance is consumed into the darkness. The Black
Got
Egg then
him.
appears to turn to shadows, and the Void seeps down into the ground. Hornet awakens to find the Knight's broken shell lying on the floor. We get one final shot of the Shades in the Abyss going to rest, and the game is over. This ending is
Nice.
called the Dream No More ending.
I like this
the
one.
Radiance is gone, and Halnest is finally free from her infection.
Absolute Radiance. Yes.
Now I think it's fair to ask a few questions about how the Dream No More ending comes about. When the Hollow Knight was initially chosen to become the pure vessel, the Abyss was sealed up and the rest of the vessels were left to rot away. But somehow, vessels ended up outside of the Abyss.
Right.
And then one of those vessels was used to replace the Hollow Knight. Exactly how much of this operation was planned, if at all? The White Lady was waiting for a vessel. Did she have any communication with Hornet? Hornet was guarding the King's Brand, the only way for a vessel to enter the Abyss. How would she
Really?
know it was necessary to guard the King's Brand
Maybe
from
this
weaker
is-
vessels? Hell, if the vessels did escape the Abyss by themselves,
Echo boom?
wouldn't
Boom
it be
boom?
pointless
True.
to guard the King's Brand, since the vessels could just creep back into the Abyss the same way? I'm not going to provide any good answers.
If the Pale King was all-knowing and 5-head, maybe he knew that this was going to happen in the first place, right? Maybe he had one of them sent away in the first place, us being the Knight as the character, and devised all of this. I'm just saying.
To these questions, because God forbid I answer anything in this entire video.
Oh my
But I
god.
do want to point out that no plans to actually produce the Dream No More ending are explicitly stated in-game. So we can only speculate as to whether or not the White Lady or Hornet,
True.
or maybe even the Pale King, knew that they could defeat the Radiance by creating a Lord of Shades. Like the
Also
Knight.
true.
Regardless, the next two endings were definitely not planned. In fact, the last two endings that were added in the Godmaster update almost feel out of place. The godseekers basically hijack everything to the point where you don't even have to enter the Temple of the Black Egg to beat the game. That's like
Really?
beating Mario Bros without ever seeing Bowser. But on the other hand, the Godmaster endings basically reinforce that Halnest does not exist in a vacuum, which can help the world of Hollow Knight feel more real. Because what else is reality but just a bunch of random chaotic stuff happening all the time? If the Knight finds the Godseeker in the junk pit, it will be able to enter her mind and
On how
refight all the
to-
bosses in the game.
Whoa.
This is part of the Godseeker's ritual.
How to annihilate Soul Tyrant, get good.
They basically
Also true.
attune to the resonance of gods through ritual combat. This allows them to ascend their minds higher, and eventually, through the use of God the Focus, achieve
Really?
communication with the god sleeping in Halnest's heart, the Radiance.
Which is the Radiance.
Now, I know what
Right,
you're
right,
thinking.
right.
That's a pretty convoluted little religious practice they have going on here. What's next? Are they going to start measuring the Knight's Theon levels? It's pretty complicated, but the point is,
Yo.
these godseekers have some serious capabilities to fuck things up in Hallownest, as we're about to see. As the knight makes it further and further through the 4 Pantheon,
He may have known the children weren't going to work. He just wanted to pump. True. Also
the
true.
godseekers get closer and closer to making contact with the Radiance, locked away inside the Hollow Knight. At the end of the 4th Pantheon, the Radiance makes herself aware in this strange reunion cutscene between the vessels. But she
What?
isn't the only one to make an appearance. The Void itself appears to go on the attack, rising up to meet the Radiance's call. It's at this
1v1
point
me,
that the
bro?
final challenge, the Pantheon of Hallownest, becomes available. The Godseeker finally acknowledges the Knight as being more than just a simple cringer, and they begin to watch the Knight more intently. After defeating like a bazillion bosses in the final Pantheon, the
True.
Knight finally comes face to face with the Absolute Radiance, a stronger, more enhanced
In the Valorant
version
of the
game's
Flower? I'll
final
check 'em out.
boss. Finally, the stage is set. After roughly 40 minutes of intense agony and
40
tedious boss
minutes?
battles, the Knight has finally reached the ultimate enemy, responsible for the destruction of Hallownest. Truly, this will be a battle for the ages. But first, let's check in on our old pal Menderbug.
Oh, yeah, our
As it turns out,
homie.
he's still
Wow,
alive when the
wow.
Knight arrives in Hallownest, and he's still fulfilling his
Our
duty after all this
homie.
time.
I
Let's
like
take
this
one last
guy.
look at his diary.
My lovely diary. Someone's gone and broke my favorite sign.
Oh,
right there,
that
at
was
the top of
us.
the crossroads.
That was
Keeps
us.
happening too. But you know, I just can't get mad about it. I should be thanking them, really. More chances to fix that beautiful, complex sign. And I've stocked up on spare parts, so I've no fear it'll ever stay broken.
Hey, that's what I'm talking about, bro. Hey, we got you.
Unfortunately, the only way to ever read the Menderbug's diary is to kill him in cold blood. I'm not sure why Team Cherry thought this was necessary, but the general consensus on Reddit is that they are bloodthirsty warmongers. So it
True.
checks out.
True,
One of these
dude.
Menderbug's last moments will be spent fixing one of his favorite signs in the Forgotten Crossroads. It's comforting to think that his final seconds of consciousness were spent in total bliss, before we sent him hurtling into the infinite chasm that is Oblivion. Well,
Rip.
anyways,
No
the
more
alternate
fixed
fight between
signs.
The Knight and the Radiance plays out differently than in the vanilla ending. This time around, the Knight is not accompanied by any shades. Instead, after defeating the Radiance, the Knight seems to transform into this monstrosity.
The Giga Shade,
Now, this
dude.
creature goes by many names. The God of Gods, the Lord Shade, the Devourer, the Void Entity. But I don't really like any of those, so I will just call him Bill. Bill proceeds to completely annihilate the Radiance in spectacular fashion.
Just
We
freaking
eventually
rips his head
embrace
off.
The Void ending.
We're
Bill
sick.
comes back down from the sky, dropping into the rest of Godhome. The Godseeker starts to get pulled into Bill by Void tendrils. We then cut to the Godseeker in the junk pit. Void starts leaking out of her
Void
eyes,
given-
and it appears
Void
as
given
though Bill is
focus?
making an escape back into the real world.
Bill's
which is
coming out.
probably a bad thing. Finally, we see Hornet standing outside of the Black Egg as the infection begins to disappear from nearby vines. Hornet hears
What?
footsteps coming from inside the Black Egg as the Hollow Knight reveals itself to her and the two prepare for combat. So from this cutscene, we can see that the Radiance's death in Godhome actually
What?
did kill her for real, meaning that the infection over Hallownest is now gone. This
Nice.
means the seals inside of the Black Egg probably wore off, allowing the Hollow Knight to escape its prison. In other words, the Embrace of the Void ending is a goddamn cliffhanger. And we
Hornet
have no idea
versus
how Team Cherry
Hollow
plans to
Knight?
follow this up.
Sick.
The Hollow Knight is running loose.
What if
in
that's the
Hallownest,
first- what is
and
that-
the
what
Knight
if that's
has
the first,
transformed into a raging void
fight?
monster that might try to destroy the
That'd be
entire
sick.
kingdom, or at least what's left of it. What's even more strange about this ending is that the announced sequel, Hollow Knight Silksong, doesn't seem to be related to this ending at all. But
Oh.
that's a whole different shit show. Obviously, the biggest mystery surrounding this ending is the appearance of Bill. Did this creature
Bill,
exist in the
Bill,
void already?
Bill, Bill,
or was it
Bill.
somehow willed into existence by the power of the Godseekers? Did the
Ooh.
Knight turn into this thing, or did it just become a part of it? Examining a statue of this creature and other forms of the Knight grant the player a hunter's journal
Wow.
entry for an ancient artifact called the Void Idol, which might imply this creature might have been worshipped by the ancient civilization. But again,
Wicked.
that's pure speculation.
Rare artifact from the time before Hollow Nest. Its spires, twinned in a unified form, contains a large amount of liquid from the abyss perfectly still. Not God nor beast nor bug. Bill. Maybe in a DLC you can fight the Hollow Knight. Maybe in the DLC you can fight the Hollow Knight. True. Void given form. Inspired and mad, those ancient bugs. They devoted their worship to no lord, or power, or strength, but to the very darkness itself. Liam.
We don't know what this worship of Void exactly looked like. Maybe the Void they worship took the form of something more sinister. There is one thing we know about this monster though. It's weak to flowers. Yes, these things.
Yes,
as it turns
true.
out, those delicate flowers that Zamir has stockpiled up her ass are actually useful for something. They contain a strange power that even deters the White Lady from touching one. The Godseeker, however, is dumb enough to accept a flower from the night. If
We
the
did
player
that.
does this, instead of Void being released out into the world, this flower pulls a no you, and the Godseeker
We did that.
Void disappears.
I give you
into
10
thin
out of
air.
10.
The flower itself
Hey.
is described as giving off a pale light, which appears to connect it to the pale beings.
Cool.
Like I said before, pale beings appear to be some form of top
Itself
tier
is
gods.
Shade Lord?
As of right now, we are only aware of two, the Pale King and the White Lady. But the fact that Zamir brought these pale flowers from a
Wow.
far land implies that there are definitely more of them out there. Another small hint of the existence of pale beings are the pale ore items that can be found all over Hallownest.
What are those?
Did these come from the Pale
I forget.
King, or possibly some other pale being?
Oh,
And what
that's to
exactly
upgrade our
are they?
nail,
Are they poop?
right?
In general, the Godmaster endings appear to be doing a lot of setup for future Hollow Knight content. Like I said before, Hollow Knight Silksong doesn't seem to connect to these events on the surface, so we are in a bit of a bind when trying to discuss what these endings actually mean for the greater
Pure,
Team
yeah,
series
or pale
building.
ore? Yeah, you're
There's
right.
definitely a lot more to consider about what the pale beings are and what properties they possess. And we also have plenty of questions surrounding the Void and how bugs have interacted with it
Yeah,
in the
the-
past. It almost feels like we're looking through a keyhole, trying to grasp onto
Interesting.
the totality of Team Cherry's creation. How powerful are creatures like Bill and the worms? Where did things like the Void even come from to begin with?
That is
How much
wicked.
bigger is the world beyond Hallownest? Is Bardoon into butt stuff? But
Whoa,
of course,
who's that
that's
big
the
boy?
appeal of a game like Hollow Knight. Having all of the answers to every question
Yeah,
would just
Lurker is
ruin
a
the mystery
forgotten.
of the world.
Imagine
Plus,
if you
we
have to get 12 pale ore for pure nail. That would be rough, bro. I mean, fighting the Hollow Knight would be just a little weaker pure vessel, and killing it with hornet abilities. That would be
have
really
questions
cool,
like
actually.
this to waste our time on, then what else would we be doing with our lives? Go outside?
Wait for
Ugh.
wait for
And so this
Silksong.
video comes to an end. Now I know the
What a
average
wicked-
attention span of a YouTube viewer is 9 minutes. So
Is
let
it
me leave you
really?
with a few takeaways. 1. Hollow Knight is a game about bugs. I know this may come as a shock, but it's true. Watch the video again, and this time, pay attention. You'll notice right away, I promise.
True,
2. Murdering your own babies might not be such a good idea after all.
especially if
I
they
mean,
have the
this
void
is
in them.
obviously just my
Can we confirm?
interpretation of the game's lore. Other people might have different views on the subject of murdering babies, and every opinion is valid, so I don't want to step on anyone's toes or anything. 3. Menderbug is fucking dead.
Rip.
Nothing is certain.
I'm hoping Silksong is on Nintendo Summer Direct. That'd be actually sick.
This video
I hope it is
probably
too.
has a few flaws in it. Trying to construct a cohesive narrative with the information found in Hollow Knight isn't exactly straightforward. I'm sure my views will change in the future, and I encourage you to explore the lore yourself. 5.
Okay.
And this last point is fairly obvious, but
What
I
is
should
it?
mention it anyway. Cory in the House is the best anime.
Yo, I forgot about that meme, dude. Special thanks to all these. Feels good. Hey! We have been disappointed before, so I don't know. Yeah, I guess we've been disappointed for years, right? Feels bad, man. Demo analysis. 33 minutes long. Wow, guys. Wow. If you haven't liked this video, you need to like this video because this man put an absolutely incredible amount of work into it. I'll watch the 2 endings that I suggested. Both those were different endings. You know what we're going to do before that, actually? We're going to do our tier list, guys. We are going to do a tier list of all tier lists. All right? I actually have it pre-saved on my desktop. It is finally time, right after I